Hey, it's Mark. So let's roll right into some stocks here. I went through my scans. I went through my momentum scan that just looks for momentum that's kind of just getting started. And there's still a lot of biotech popping up in this scan. Like it's one of my long bias scans that I go through on StockFetcher. So it's usually just these low price stocks that it filters for, and it looks at a few things and it finds ones that just have some momentum going, or a lot of times it finds them where the momentum is like just getting started too, like where they're just coming down off of a long oversold spiral down. So it can find bottoms sometimes too, but it just finds stuff that's moving really. So like I'm still seeing a lot of these biotechs, like CRVS was a big one today, the XERS. And I'm gonna have to add the CRVS to my watch list too, because I just added the XERS, and I'm just seeing a lot of those still showing up. Like there's some more therapeutics ones. I'd say maybe almost half of these look like biotech. So this is another bio there, another health company. So there's definitely still some sector rotation going on with these biopharma, like small caps. I haven't been tracking the large caps because I just kind of focus on my little niche here that I like to trade. So I trade these just because I find the technicals to be easier to read, and there's just less eyeballs on it and less volume. So a lot of times the technicals play out better. So I added the AKBA to my watch list yesterday. I think I tweeted that one out yesterday, and I put on some calls in that one today. But yeah, there's just a lot of stuff still moving here, even though the market's pretty weak. I mean, this one might even be a biotech too, the CRDF. It's kind of a slow mover, but there's other stuff that I like that has possibility for some better technicals. Like it's got that gap down there, so the Fate is up. I mean, there's just so many of these. Like, there's the AQST. That one could be coming back, but it's kind of looks like it already had its run. So let's just look at the one I just added was this XCRS. So I looked at the long-term chart. It's got this big level at about $3. It's a really clear level at $3. So there's some pretty big resistance there at $3. But the way these things are going, it seems pretty likely it's going to get there, especially because it had a gap up, had a nice bull flag there off of trend support, and it gapped up really strong and ran pretty high volume for this stock. So as long as it holds this uptrend, this thing's got some momentum going. So there's just so many of these that are still moving. Like I put out on my Twitter account how a lot of these are just still going. Like the uh, the EVGN, really nice chart still going off that bull flag that I talked about on another video, and these are still holding up really well. And the overall the biotech ETF, which is mostly large cap, it's still kind of flat though. Could be a consolidation, or could have topped out there at that resistance level. It hit right off that level I drew, because it's the level is that the high back in 2022 and 2023 where it double topped. So it didn't really like that level so far, but still could be consolidating to push through it. But we gotta see. But I'm not really worried about these large caps because there's just so much momentum in these small caps, and some of them even have options and they trade a lot of shares. Like I mean, Inno has traded 11 million shares today, and it's got options. And the DNA has been the only one. The DNA has been disappointing because I thought it was gonna really start going off of this, off that retest there of old resistance, but it's back down at that level again. So it's kind of been a dud for as far as these go. But the Migi even came back too, and that really could be a bull flag here. The way the sell volume is kind of high on one of those days, but the way it's kind of come back slow and it's holding, it looks like it still could be a bull flag, even though it's up from $1 to 4. Like I'm probably not going to buy the breakout, but there's a setup there if it breaks like over in the 370s. I mean, it might have one more last couple day run. So yeah, the biotech was up a little bit, and I was looking at the heat map. Like the heat map is pretty much just like it's been in the other days this year. You just got a lot of healthcare and some financials are up, but it's pretty mixed today, really. If I'm looking at it, I mean the financials weren't even that strong, really, but a lot of the strength was in the healthcare, and energy was weak today, which is cool with me because my energy trade I have now is just these rig puts, so that's nice. And Amazon was down a lot today. So since we're talking about rig, we can do the USO's it's kind of just going sideways here, but it's better than going up because I've got the puts. So the setup's still playing out, and rig was actually weaker than crude oil. So I put that trade on the 28th, back on the 28th of December, before it cracked that bear flag, because oil cracked a bear flag and I figured I'd just follow oil. So it's looking pretty good. Those puts are looking good. And some of the other bios are still looking really good too. Like I talked about EVGN. The one that I found that spiked, this one's actually looking really good for a flag here. That definitely looks like a bull flag is forming, and the spike on this one could be really big off of that because it had that really big run day towards the end of the month last month. So this one, I gotta put some alerts on this one for the flag break. So if it happens to go tomorrow, it looks like it might, because that we just had two hammers in a row, and it's a pretty tight range today. So if we hit over 278, I would say 280. If we hit 280s, it's probably going to run. If we hit 280 tomorrow, or even 279, it could run. But it could just keep going down, consolidating. But it looks like it's about time. Like the volume's getting lighter and lighter here. Like it traded 9,000 on the previous day and traded 7,500 today. It's crazy light volume though. Like the spreads are pretty whack. It looks like yeah, this stock's really thin, so you got to put limit orders. Use limit orders. Yeah, it's really thin. I mean, on this day, it traded a ton of volume. It traded 250,000 shares on that spike day, so it'll probably be less thin, if it starts running. So I'm just gonna wait and see if it runs before I enter it, if I even do catch that, because I might not be watching it I might just set a limit, like a stop order. I'll put a stop order in like 280. So if it runs, I'll catch it. I'll usually use stop orders a lot with if I'm swing trading. Just if you can't watch it all the time, you gotta have a stop order out. So whenever it hits that price, it'll get filled. Like a stop limit order for this one because it's so thin. When I say thin, I just mean thin volume. There's light volume. There's not a lot of liquidity compared to like another stock like CNO has just trades lots of shares every minute. So I mean the wriggle's still going a little bit there. I was trying to find some other ones that had really, yeah, the ADCT had a good move today too, and it still got that trend support. And I noticed that Peloton hit right off of trend support too, so this one's kind of sketchy now for a short. It's kind of like a failed signal on the short side there. It could be, I mean, really it looks like a long if it breaks out again, because that short signal there failed when it broke below trend line, and just a quick reversal. So that's kind of on my, I'm not going to trade this one now because it's too it's kind of unpredictable at this point, but it's more of a bullish chart at the moment. And the Wayfair kind of did the same, kind of faked out a little bit. Like it looked like it was gonna just really fall off a cliff there. And the shot's like barely hanging in on that support level. It's actually a little below that big level at like 340. So this one could fall off a cliff like it did that day when it went from 6 to 2 to 270 in one day. So I wouldn't be surprised if it does break down, if it just has a spike like that. Or it could just be a slow one, but we'll see. Like, I mean, the shorts really like this stock, so they're probably gonna pounce on it. And I noticed that natural gas is up, even without oil being up today a lot. But actually, it looks like oil is red. Like natural gas is like kind of quietly running here, but it's so it just likes to go so range bound and down. It's not really the best thing to trade, but I just thought that was interesting that natural gas is up so much today. And bonds are kind of holding up on trend support still, just barely, but it's downtrending. So we'll see. Like the bonds might crack too. I mean, in theory, you've got when they raise rates, the bonds go down, and then when they lower rates, the bonds will go up. Just how the dynamics of yield and bond prices. So the idea that bonds have been running is kind of, I guess, kind of indicative of that anticipation of rates coming down, finally. So that seems to be the consensus. But we'll see, like it's harder to predict months out, but I think there's probably a good chance that they cut, especially if there's any weakness, if there's any econ weakness. And apparently banking credit's been contracting, so it kind of goes all down to the banks. So I'm not sure how big an indicator that is, but that's kind of the only thing the bears have, I think, is the contraction in banking credit. It's not expanding anymore, but looks like a pretty mixed market today, really, just looking at everything. So I'm not really taking a lot from it. Like I see Carnival Cruise Lines was up today, and just really mixed. All the sectors are really mixed, a lot of mixed up and down. So, but let's just look at, I'll just do the last thing I'll look at is the indices here. So the NASDAQ is just kind of barely down again. Looks like it opened up a little green too, but that doesn't really mean much. But yeah, it looks like it's definitely in a little downtrend here. And I think Apple was kind of the, like I talked about in another video, like Apple was really like the leading indicator, I think. I mean, Apple was down, had our first like big red day before the rest of tech. So like right there, it started breaking down on the 20th. So the 20th was when it cracked its trend, its uptrend, right there on the 20th, that red candle. So the NASDAQ was probably down, but it kind of came back though. Like the NASDAQ was down on the 20th too, but that was that fake out where they just faked out and went more long. So let's just compare it, because there might be something to that, like yeah, it's pretty close. Like the Facebook, like Meta is like, I think Meta should be one of the more highly valued ones now, just based on their LLM. Like Apple's kind of slow with their LLM and integrating AI into Siri and stuff, but there's rumors they're doing it, but I'm sure they are, but it's just slower. So yeah, Meta just had a pullback like 3 days ago, and Google was kind of leading there for a while, but yeah, look at that failed signal there. Wow, yeah, that's a big failed signal. See, it broke out. See, they had that trading range going for a long time, and then it broke out and then quickly reversed, so it trapped. It's like a bull trap. But did that back there too. But I think the rest of the market did too. But yeah, it's a pretty bad chart because it's got that trap there. Failed breakout. See, they trapped it there too. They trapped it on the downside too, and they went up. But it really, this range, I mean, this resistance level has been pretty rock solid. Multiple touches here, like it touched it way back, a lot back there and there. So yeah, if it goes red tomorrow, and that's a good setup short. If it's red on the day tomorrow, or if it gaps down, it likes to gap down a lot too. I mean, looking at the chart here, and look at all these gap downs. It's a big gap down there. That was a huge gap down after earnings, and that continued. But it even gaps down without earnings too, and gaps up. And it looks like it tends to follow the gap ups too. Like, just kind of looking with my vision here, a lot of times the gap ups see continuation just as much as the gap downs. So that would be a good some good stats to run, like just to back test if what the gap ups and gap downs give. Like, they used to be like that for Apple, like years ago. If Apple gapped up, there was a setup. But Yeah, it's kind of one of the more interesting charts because it has those clear levels. And I haven't looked at industrials in a while too. Those are coming back down to the former resistance to try to hold that. But yeah, the momentum's really broken down. Like all these uptrends are cracking. Like let's see if the Russell was right on it. I'm one. Yeah, yeah. The Russell held barely its trend support today. So it just feels like it's gonna break through that because everything else is breaking trend support too. So I'd say there's a good chance the Russell's red tomorrow, uh, unless the market's just choppy again. But it's not looking too good for a lot of the indices. Let's look at staples because those were pretty good. Yeah, staples are still holding trend, like barely. My internal trend line there. And let's just see what XLE's doing. Yeah, XLE's got a clear range. See those clear levels there. It failed. It really tried to break through it and failed. That's interesting. It's held up a lot better than crude oil, just by looking at it without doing percentages. But a lot of like the oil producers, their sweet spot for oil is like I think it's like 60, 70 a barrel. So as long as oil is above that price point, they're profitable. Like don't quote me, I think it's like 70. It's not very high, of course, but I'm usually better at reading the USO itself. So it's super range bound still. To me, it just has a better chance of breaking down once it hits like 64s. So yeah, that's about all I want to talk about. Like I was saying, I found a lot of momentum still in biopharma. I really wish there was a small cap biopharma or even pharma uh, ETF just for small caps because the sector just when the sector starts to run, it just keeps going and going. Like it's pretty obvious when there's rotation into it. So it's just I wouldn't say it's easy to see, but sometimes it kind of is like these stocks just keep going. Like I think XBI might be the closest, but I don't think it's market cap weighted. I think it looks like it's. I'm sure this is like mostly large cap. But what I'm saying is it'd be nice if there's one for just small caps or even micro, because those go too. I mean, some of the ones with the most volume, they're still even really small cap. So the CRVS was the other one that I found, and I'm just gonna look at the long term on that, see if it's got any levels. Oh yeah, this is interesting. See, it's got these big spikes back in 21. Let's see, yeah. Like you see back there in 2019, it had a lot of momentum, just kept going. Um, had a crazy run in 29, twice in 2019, and but the interesting thing is it does have runs. So it's got what could be the start of another run here. I mean, it's got a lot of momentum. And it broke over this level there, so let's see, it probably lines up with that level almost. But that's a pretty big level there because it was support back there. So this one looks pretty good too. I mean, it's got that slow uptrend going. This one's good. I don't know if it has options either, but it might if it trades, about 200,000 shares on average or so. And I'm just gonna look at a couple more scans to see if anything stood out here. Interestingly, my gap down scan, which is super short biased, only had seven hits today, even though the market was pretty flat and weak in spots. Like the other day, there was I think it was 40 or 70 hit. Sometimes you just see really good breakdowns here on this one. Like I was looking at my blog, like my Dynamite Stocks blog, where I blogged a lot about my trading and stuff, and I had some really good last year I had really good positive expectancy on these breakdowns, on 52-week breakdowns, like on these 3 scans here. But I used to look at these too because it's more like 52-week lows, and sometimes they would hit multiple scans. And look at that, AMC made a 52-week low today, so that's interesting. It's looks like the big the retail's unwinding that one. I guess they're worried about the retail's actually dumping that one because I think I saw a Twitter space there, people were worried about it. That's interesting. I think that's a high short one too, a high short interest. I guess the institutions are really just riding that down. Yeah, that could be a good trade, the AMC, because it's obviously in its own world here. It's not really trading with the market. It's just a breakdown. It likes to go sideways though, so could easily go sideways again. Yeah, so that's interesting. Even though I was expecting to see more on my gap down scan, more hits. And my 52-week high scan is kind of the usual suspects now. Yeah, the ABEO is one of the ones I picked the other day, the bio. Even the RWLK was up again. Yeah, these shippers, that's Safe Bulkers is up, so it kind of made me want to look at shippers again. See what I may have to go through the shippers again to cherry pick those because the index actually held support here. The shipping ETF, it actually seems to be holding a level there. You notice some wacky volume on the sell side on the selling days there, but ship's still holding in too. And IMPP, IMPP is my favorite shipping stock, so I'm kind of just happy with this one because I've got calls on this one still. So, and it's still acting pretty well here. Looks like a bull flag, even though it's slow. Oh, look at the GOGL. That's one of my favorites. They had a really convincing breakout today. GOGL. Really nice chart. Like it broke out of that base, that range, a couple months ago, and it's going. It's even ahead of the sector, looks like. And the SBLK hasn't been as good this time, but it kind of broke out today too. And I think that was it. I think there was one more thing I wanted to look at. I can't think what it was. Something else was I was thinking about here. Yeah, shippers, and I think that's about it really. The BTCS, the BTCS, this Bitcoin or crypto miner, it's holding in pretty well still. I mean, the sell volume wasn't that much on that day. Like, this one seems to be one of the better looking charts versus the other ones, because the other ones just kind of really look like they fizzled out here. But the BTCS kind of held that previous support there, that level there in like 270s. So that was the only one that caught my eye, as having some technical still. The NE is kind of unwinding, but it's still pretty light sell volume on these days. Yeah, so I think I covered a lot there, and it's pretty much all I want to talk about. So I'll just call it a wrap there, and I'll catch you in the next video.